YouTube Buzzik going. The Goat House is back. On day one of NFL free agency, a lot of signings went down. We have two other videos plus this one full of signing grades. Plenty more to come. 3 in one day, but there definitely are more to come. A lot of good free agents still out there. And I expect some trades to go down within the next couple days for sure. And we'll grade those as well. So we got you covered. So subscribe to the channel. Smash that like button. Turn notifications on. You know the drill. And follow that Twitter, keeping you up to date with everything going on in the NFL and giving you my thoughts there first. So that's definitely a follow, must follow at GoatHouse NFL. Pinned a link in the comments along with some other useful things there. Check out walkthemock.com. Very cool draft simulator. Use code GoatHouse if you're going to sign up. Here's our Twitter. Just constantly retweeting or mainly talking about this stuff. So, check it out at GoatHouse NFL. Definitely worth making a Twitter and following us if you get the chance there. First one, Corey Davis. We're going to give out some letter grades here like we did in the two other videos. Again, this is our third video, so check out the other ones if you're looking for a specific free agent. If you don't see a free agent that was signed in any of the videos, it's probably coming in a future one, but it's probably because it hasn't happened yet as I'm recording this. That's why I haven't done it yet. Corey Davis goes to the Jets, 3-year, $37.5 million. So the Jets find the receiver to pair with Denzel Mims and Jameis Crowder for now. Crowder's obviously not long-term. $12.5 million per year for Corey Davis. You know, if you heard me talk during this process, you know, it was one of those guys I brought up that I fear might be an overpay. $12.5 million is kind of around that range where I thought what made sense from where I feel comfortable is maybe that $10.5, $11 million range. But I did think at the end of the day he was probably going to get around this range. It's tricky. You know, I did predict him back to the Titans because he had one good year, and that was with the Titans this year. So if any team was going to trust him to pay this much, the team that he had success with that one good year, but even though he's only played for the Titans, well, the Jets feel confident they can continue to get that out of him. If Zach Wilson's going to be his quarterback, that'd be obviously fun to watch. We'll see. But yeah, pairing him with Mims for the future is solid. I'm going to keep it in the B range, but I'm going to give it a B minus. 12.5. It's a little scary with Corey Davis because he's been extremely underwhelming up until last year. He did have a pretty monstrous year last year. Tannehill got going. So let's see what the Jets got at the quarterback situation. But yeah, a little more than what I would put his value, but I did kind of expect it in that range in a way. So B minus for the Jets and Corey Davis. We're not done with the Jets. We'll circle back. Speaking of the Tennessee Titans, they're bringing a division rival defensive lineman here, Nico Autry, who played more of a defensive end role for the Colts scheme. He's going to play defensive end in the Titans scheme, but it's more of a defensive lineman there, more of a pass rusher in the Colts scheme, I should say. So Titans running that 3-4, so he'll play D end while Jeffrey Simmons plays D tackle. I really like that fit in the 3-4, a lot better, even though he was pretty productive as it was with the Colts. So I do like him playing with Jeffrey Simmons. People always talk about, the Titans just don't get enough pass rush, so they're going to add an edge rusher, right? They have to have an edge rusher, and they did, and we'll get to that. But nobody ever talks about, they're not really getting pressure from anywhere. A lot was on Jeffrey Simmons. He was doubled a lot. I mean, number one thing for him is he's going to stop the run at a high level, but he's going to get pressure too. So it's kind of just get him help in any way. So, I really like getting help up front with Nico Autry there. So get somebody else that can get pressure. They pretty much just had run-stopping guys up there. Mr. Al Casey. 3-year, $21.5. Yeah, $7.1 million is a pretty good deal there. That's a pretty good deal. I'm gonna give it an A. I like this one. This one's really growing on me as well. I'm gonna give it an A. I thought he would get more money than a guy like Roy Robertson Harris, who's basically the same position there. Autry's going to get more production, I feel like. I think it's a good fit with the Titans in that scheme. Yeah, I like that signing. Going to give it an A for the Titans there. And Carl Lawson, back to the Jets. We're circling back. 3-year, $45 million, $15 million per year. I talked about Carl Lawson a lot this offseason. People were talking about 10, 11, 12 million range, and I was saying, he's going to get more than that. It's going to get closer to 15. He got that 15 here to the Jets. It's very risky, really. It is. I like Carl Lawson. I like the fit, Robert Saleh's scheme there. Overall it's good, but at the same time it's pretty risky to spend that $15 million. I've been calling him a sleeper, based on where the price point was, where people were talking. If they sign him for $12 million, I probably gave it an A plus or A, close to there. But it is risky because the production hasn't fully been there yet. But you see he kind of is putting together the traits, the pass rush moves. It still feels like a prospect in a way. So that's fantastic, especially with the edge rushers. So it's going to be fun in that scheme. Overall, I really like it. Again, it does come with some risk. I'm going to give it a B+. I like it's an upside signing. It's an upside signing. Overall, obviously, I like it. So the Jets, a little quiet early. I think fans were pretty confident they were going to get a guy like Joe Thuney, for an example. And that didn't happen, and nothing was really going on. And all of a sudden, they land Corey Davis, Carl Lawson. So they got better, obviously. Whether you think they're risky, they are kind of risky signings. Whether you think they're overpays or not, they got better. I like what they're doing right now. Next up, the Saints, Jameis Winston. Yeah, 1 year, $12 million, but you start to really look into these deals, and we start finding more and more out about these deals. Sometimes it's right after they get signed, and we hear the original details, and sometimes we don't hear for like a week or a couple hours or days, But you start to hear it's kind of like the Cam Newton contract here, and where Cam Newton contract comes out and it's 1 year, $14 million, and I don't really like that, but really it's a 1 year, $5 million. All the rest is incentives. So if Cam Newton plays well, then yeah, you want to throw that money at him. And Jameis Winston, I was not expecting to be getting a deal like that, but he does. So yeah, it's almost similar to that Cam Newton, deal. If he plays well, then he gets $12 million. If Jameis Winston, plays his game, yeah, I am throwing that money at him. I mean, this might be maybe the best one of them best signings of the offseason so far. Believe it or not, with Jameis Winston. I mean, I believe in Jameis Winston. It's tough to say he's going to go win a Super Bowl or anything like that, but there's such a big problem with quarterbacks just not being able to stay consistent, not being able to, convert on third down, get production, get yards, get the team in the end zone. Jameis Winston has that. He's going to turn the ball over, but he has that, and I think he's better than a lot of guys that are going to start in the league. So I like him back with the Saints. I'm very intrigued on what the Saints offense is going to look like. It's definitely different with Jameis Winston. It's a really good deal. I heard the Bears were involved in trying to get him. I'm curious to know if the Bears offered him more, and he went back. He just wanted to go back to the Saints, or I'm wondering if the Bears offered him less. Be like, hey, we're gonna give you this, and you're gonna start for us. And then with the Saints, you kind of got a battle with Hill, even though he's probably confident. I could argue either side, so that's just kind of up in the air. But this is really good. I think Winston's better. We'll see. He can't turn the ball over that much, but I think he's better than the money that's been presented in this contract. And if he plays better, he's going to get $12 million. But then that is, I think, better than $12 million. So I don't know. I think that's one of the better signings so far. The Vikings, this just happened a little bit ago, signed Dalvin Tomlinson, the Giants nose tackle. Pretty interesting. I think he's going to play D tackle. I was talking about this on Twitter. Really, Pierce or Tomlinson can play D tackle probably, but they're both, it feels like true nose tackles. So I thought that was interesting there. The Vikings get the best nose tackle last free agency. They get the best nose tackle in this free agency. So that was kind of odd, I suppose. But yeah, they couldn't stop the run this year, and they were without Pierce, of course. So now with Pierce and Tomlinson in there, I mean, seriously, though, not best run defense in general, but looking at the actual interior defensive linemen, that might be the best, in football in terms of stopping the run, getting interior pressure. Whole different story. That's kind of where they're lacking in this department. So they got to make sure the edge presence in terms of getting pressure on the quarterback is top tier, which it can be with Daniil Hunter, but there's a whole mess going on with him right now. We'll see what happens there. But yeah, back-to-back years getting the best nose tackle in free agency is definitely interesting. $11 million per year. Again, they're gonna play him at D tackle, I believe. But I think they kind of interchangeable, which is pretty good as well, I guess, with Pierce and Tomlinson. But yeah, $11 million for a guy like Tomlinson who's getting better. Playing him at D tackle is a pretty good price there, I suppose. But yeah, mainly, yeah. I mean, that run defense is it's gonna be insanely improved this year with Pierce and Tomlinson. So I like that. I'm gonna give it a B+ though, just because. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure what I know what their angle is. I mean, they're gonna play Pierce and Tomlinson, but yeah, there's it's a great run interior, but stopping interior, but yeah, I guess there is still a question mark in terms of the pressure. There's not gonna be too much quarterback pressure come from the interior, but I think they see something in Tomlinson, maybe to develop that. So we'll see. But overall, I like it. I'm gonna give it a B+. But I guess there's some questions there with a lot of these guys. So we'll see. Definitely was one I wasn't expecting, because they had Pierce coming back, similar style interior defensive lineman, but they have a plan to make it work there. Two good players. The Bengals signed Trey Hendrickson. We talked about Carl Lawson. The Bengals were in. It was reported that they're in on re-signing Carl Lawson. Carl Lawson ended up getting $15 million from 3 years, $50 million per year out of 3 years with the Jets, and the Bengals were in on that. So that just means, plain and simple, that they didn't want to up the bid. They let him go to the Jets. We're not going to pay $15 million per year in 3 years. So then they turned their attention to Trey Hendrickson, which throughout the day they've been in on. They've been monitoring along with other teams. But as soon as Carl Lawson got signed, they kind of went back, turned their attention here, and ended up signing $15 million. So what I think happened here, and it is a fact that they were in on re-signing Carl Lawson. Maybe they wanted both, perhaps, or one or the other. But what I think happened here is they turned back to Hendrickson, and they had to raise the bid to get him. And their pass rush is as big of a need as offensive line without Carl Lawson, which is pretty crazy to think about, but it is. I mean, they were one of the worst in football last year as it was. So they realized they had to land this guy, and they had upped the bid, and they realized, I think they're at the price that Carl Lawson was. So, interesting situation. When they lost Carl Lawson, I was really disappointed big time, and I still kind of am. In the Bengals, I talked about this offseason. This was a team that just couldn't sit back. They had to go to work, and they are trying to go to work. I think they are. They could do better, obviously, but they got to build this offensive line. They got to build the edge rush. They got to get some guys back, and they have some really good pieces and some. Joe Burrow, the receiver unit, still believe in Joe Mixon. I'm a big Joe Burrow guy though. But yeah, like those receivers are sitting pretty with the draft pick. They got some pieces here and there on defense. Huge Jesse Bates guy. Trey Wayne's coming back. They got pieces, but they got negatives. They got holes in some key important spots. I thought with those big-time stud pieces, and if they complete it, do the offseason right, this team could be a scary team. So I was kind of getting hyped in the Bengals, but I kept stressing that they have to go in. There's still a lot of free agency left here, but so far not so great here because they let a guy like Carl Lawson get away. They missed out on some offensive linemen. This is really all they did here. So we'll see what happens with William Jackson. So it's a little disappointing, but this is tough. I think this is an overpay with Trey Hendrickson. I thought he would get overpaid. I kind of anticipated the overpay, and I thought that would be around 13 and a half, maybe a maximum. So they get 15, felt like desperation mode there. So it is an overpay by a couple million, for me. He was pretty productive last year, but it's scary because one good year, and the Saints were just, a guy that gets that much production, they just were not insisting on him. They're insisting on other guys. They were insisting on using him kind of not half go, but, not really dishing out the reps. I think in on obvious passing situations where he has the opportunity. So it's really scary. So all that, it sounds like a terrible grade. But the Bengals were in a position when they kind of just had to, and they had to get a pass rusher here. So I kind of upped it for to the C range because of that, because they lose Lawson. I mean, they gotta land somebody that they view as a fit. Hendrickson and Hubbard out there. They'll probably look to draft one. They got to deal with the offensive line situation. So it's definitely interesting what's going on with the Bengals. Game of C- for this one. I do think it's a bit of an overpay. In a way, it kind of had to be done, though. Bud Dupree is a big one here to the Titans. We don't really know the amount of years and the total value. I'm not, I can grade it without that. I'm really, it's not going to change really a whole bunch at all. If you remember, I ranked Bud Dupree as the second best free agent this offseason. I like Bud Dupree. He's progressing in terms of his injury. I'm not really too worried about that. Big fan of him. Because when I watched him on the Steelers, it felt like he was creating. He was doing the creating for his teammates, where he's aligned. It's a big reason why I like a guy like Zadarius Smith. It happens to be interesting because Zadarius Smith and Bud Dupree played together at Kentucky as edge rushers. But yeah, why I like a guy like Zadarius Smith with the Packers so much since he came there. The guy's lining up everywhere. He's rushing from every spot. Maybe a little versatile where he actually lines up, but Bud Dupree will rush from different spots just as much. And it gets in the quarterback's heads, the offensive linemen's heads, and, you really have to adjust, and you kind of got to focus How are we going to block this guy? And you still don't know where he's going to go, so sometimes he's kind of got a free shot to the quarterback. And I think people get on that too much. They look, well, Bud Dupree's sacks were kind of a free shot. Well, I think that's why. I think it's a positive there for sure from based on what I've watched. So, I think a reason, TJ Watt wasn't doubled as much as you think he would. I think a reason why is because they're focused on some of these other guys, mainly Bud Dupree where he's lining up. So I thought he had a heck of a year until he got hurt. So I was a Bud Dupree guy, and $16.5 million per year is, I was expecting even around 18 I would have been good with. So that kind of looks like an A+ deal because I'm a big fan. But I'm gonna hold off on that. That was wrong. Graphics guy's fault. He did it. A. I'm gonna give it an A. And why I don't want to give it that A+, because the Titans scare me a little bit. I really like what they're doing defensively. They've kind of took a hit offensively, but they need to upgrade on defense. Now they got a guy like Nico Autry, and that's a perfect guy to add with Bud Dupree. So a total package on defense. Let's not focus on offense. It's fantastic, but because, again, you need those other pieces because Bud Dupree's going to kind of create for those guys. You need those pieces, and they got that. They have Jeffrey Simmons now. They add Nico Autry. Harold Landry's a really good pass rusher on the other side when they let him rush the passer. And that's kind of what I'm getting into. I'm not a huge fan of the Titans' system. They're scheming away. They drop Harold Landry back in coverage quite a bit. They're rushing three guys too much. Now, if you're doing that with Bud Dupree, there's not as much for him to create for. It's going to make his job a lot harder. It's going to make everyone else's job a lot harder. I do still think it's a fit. I'm not trying to say it's not a fit. I just want them just to rush the guys that are meant to rush. That's what I want them to do. Enough messing around there. So no matter who they sign, you always kind of wonder that. But I'm a big Bud Dupree guy. He started off slow too. He started off his career slow, and he's really picking it up. It feels like he has upside right now. So big signing for the Titans there. Ryan Fitzpatrick signs with the Washington football team. 1 year, $10 million, average $10 million. I was actually about to say that. It's listed right there though. So, but yeah, Washington gets the magic. They get it. He was looking great last year. He's got the defense on the other side of Washington. Good mentor for Heineke, who's looking like he's got upside. Looked fantastic in the playoff game. But Fitzpatrick, right now it feels like he's probably the starter for this 1 year. We'll see what happens with the draft. They have Heineke and Fitzpatrick. It doesn't really mean much about the draft. It may mean they're not going to trade away everything. They go up and get a quarterback. They're going to let the draft happen, let it fall to them. And if a quarterback starts slipping through, then maybe they can trade up. If somebody falls all the way down to them, maybe they can take them. It's still all on the table, and that's how you have to play the draft. You can't kind of just decide things before they actually happen there. Can't guarantee anything when it comes to the draft. But, yeah, Fitzpatrick, I think with that defense, I think it makes sense. They got to get some receivers, probably a left tackle. But overall, I like this here. I'll give it an A. I like Fitzmagic. I'll give it an A there. There's not too many other options in free agency, keep in mind, as well. So it's probably the best for them, out of the options. For them to get where they want to get to, you probably got to get a little better there, but, it's a solid pickup here. And then we got the rest of the signings here that I want to talk about. Michael Davis was way earlier in the day. We were waiting for contract details. A little surprised at the amount per year that he got. They let Casey Hayward walk, keep Michael Davis. They view him as a fit. I was surprised by the amount he got. I gave him a C. Chargers also got Matt Filer. Guy that is, it's good that he has experience at tackle and guard. Nothing at really a high level, though. Chargers are pretty desperate for offensive linemen. So overall, for a team that's kind of desperate for offensive linemen, it's a pretty good signing here. I think he'll start at guard. Patriots bring back Dietrich Weiss, 4 year, $30 million. He's still young, still got some upside here. They signed Henry Anderson too, which is a similar style player. So the Patriots adding a lot of these types of players. Weiss has a lot of upside where Anderson really doesn't at his point of his career. But it's pretty pricey. The price difference there in terms of total value is pretty different. Yeah, Henry Anderson's low risk. It's probably not going to be high reward, but I do like the fit there. I talked about in the offseason they kind of need to fix this defensive line. They had Godshaw, they had Henry Anderson, they re-signed Wise. So that actually makes sense to me. I guess just nothing big across the defensive line, but they had a package of guys here. So I gave it a B+ for Anderson. Jags take Carlos Hyde, 2 years, $6 million. Gave it a B. Hyde, really tough runner. Familiar with Urban Meyer. Kind of feels like it's just one of those signings, though. I wish it made if it makes a little sense, in terms of, I thought they were going to add more of a receiving back with James Robinson, but overall, Hyde's still a tough runner. I gave it a B. Giants get Devontae Booker, 2 years, $6 million, $3 million per year. Not in love with it. Booker, it's kind of a big role backing up Saquon Barkley. If they were gonna, it's tough to plan. I don't know what I'm trying to say. I'm sure they're confident with Barkley staying healthy, but maybe if you're getting a backup for $3 million, per year, maybe a little bigger. He got some reps with the Raiders. He actually showed some flashes at one point, but then, I think. I don't know if it's a back that, if do I want him to be the starter if Barkley goes down, so I gave it a C+, 2 years, $6 million. $3 million per year for running back is a decent amount there. And then the Texans signed Kevin Pierre-Louis. Texans keep, loading up on a lot of these guys, linebackers and D tackles for some reason. A lot of them, the smaller end guys, I feel like they should be backups. Kevin Pierre-Louis, I think, could be a starter. But then the Christian Kirksey, I wish they did without the Christian Kirksey, Kevin Pierre-Louis, and then try to bring back Tyrell Adams. They're going to run a 4-3, Kevin Pierre-Louis. I just mentioned Christian Kirksey. And then you got Zach Cunningham is their feature linebacker there. So, that's their 3. But if you had Adams in there instead of Kirksey, that would be fantastic, I think. So it's interesting what they're doing. 2 year, $8 million. So, he's a solid player. Was solid with the Bears, solid with Washington. 2 year, $4 million per year. It's a pretty solid deal. I just, probably would bump it up to maybe A-, A range. I just don't know what their plan, what their angle is here. Their plan is they're kind of just scrambling, getting all these guys, and we'll see what happens. See if there's a bunch of signings. See if there's any big signings coming for them. More deals probably going down. My phone's going off. It's pretty late. And more will go down. More videos tomorrow, of course. More news coming out on our Twitter, and a lot more content here. I'm just repeating myself over and over. I'm pretty tired. That's gonna wrap it up. Make sure you follow that Twitter and make sure you subscribe to the channel. I'm repeating it all again, aren't I? And 2 more videos like this on the channel and with a bunch of grades. So check those out. But that's gonna do it for this one. Thanks everyone for watching. Goodbye.